Good afternoon. So I will present the two types. It's on already. Test, test, test. Is it okay? Good afternoon. I will present the two presentations this afternoon. One is a kind of global business ethics by comparing the Japanese and the US business culture, okay? And so that I can explain why the Japanese are not very much interested in for entrepreneurship and why the American really likes to make an entrepreneur by him or herself, okay? So that will be made. And so I will start this part. And the second part is entrepreneurship again, how to start up and how we can operate the small business innovation research application and so on. The typical process will be introduced later. So let me start from my biohistory first. I have been a university professor total 43 years already. And Tokyo Tech 10 years, Sophia University 8 years, and this is assistant professor, associate professor, professor. And Penn State, I already spent 27 years as a professor and director, so successfully promoting, okay? In parallel, I have been the company president or vice president for 7 companies. 3 are in Japan, no, 4 are in Japan, and 3 in the United States, okay? So 21 years as a total, and NF Electronics in Japan and Micromechatronics. These are some of the affiliating and the longest period, okay? And also in parallel, government officer for 7 years. When I was a Japanese citizen, I was working for the JAXA or NASA for 3 years as a Space Shuttle Utilization Committee members. So my first work is to choose the Mukai-san or Mori-san or this particular astronaut initially interviewed and choose these guys, okay? And the US ONR, that is during my, of course, the US citizen period. So 4 years. I have been the Navy ambassador to Japan from 2010 to 2014, 4-year period, so that I could help some of the rescue program provided by the US Navy to the Japanese government for helping a big earthquake recovery as well as a nuclear power plant accident, okay? And I'm well known as a piezoelectric actuator, a kind of father of the piezoelectric actuators, and relaxer single crystals, the PMN or PGN, the single crystals discoverer. Actually, because this is used mostly in the US Navy's the sonar applications. That's why the Navy recruited me from Japan to the United States and put me to the Penn State University. This is the major reason. As an educator in the College of Engineering, I'm teaching 3 courses: ferroelectric devices, micromechatronics, and application of FEM. And currently, I studied the business ethics in the United States. I'm also professor of the business school and teaching entrepreneurship for engineers. And I'm trying to move into the law school from now on. And through the law school, I'm teaching global crisis technologies. Personally, I'm a Zen Buddhist, Zen practitioner. I'm doing some Iaido and also Zen. And also, interesting, last week, one of my grandson just get into the Tsukuba University through some special nomination. So now my grandson becomes a university student, so you can easily understand. My kids' generation is the 40s already, okay? Your father's generation. Penn State is located in the Pennsylvania state here, square. This square, if you make a geometrical center, they're the State College. State College is the city name. Sometimes if I mention that, where are you from? State College. Which State College? Okay. State College is the city name, okay? So this is the old man and the lion. This is the symbol mark. And this is many weeks ago. Now the State College is below the freezing temperature. And usually more than 3 months are below the freezing temperature in the winter season. So if we reach to the 0 degree C, we usually call it now spring came, okay? So football, we are rather strong this year. We will fight with the Kentucky in the January 1 special, that is citrus ball, okay, this year. So piezoelectric is my category. So if you hit the materials, you will get some charge or voltage. So you can find out some of the igniter, microphone, or pressure sensors. So this shows the igniter. So you can find out this piezoelectric. To the contrary, converse piezoelectric, opposite effect. By applying electric field, even the ceramics can extend or shrink. Therefore, we can develop the clock speaker actuators. This is already in the middle of 1980s. We developed a dot matrix printer in collaboration with NEC. This is widely commercialized in the world. Okay. So a textbook, piezoelectric. Of course, ferroelectric devices, micromechatronics, the FEM. These are my teaching classes. And this is my original. But automatically, some of my former students, are translating to the Japanese, Chinese, and the Korean language automatically. So my publication expand rather dramatically. So today's presentation is entrepreneurship, and also topic is global crisis and sustainability. So if you are interested in, you can purchase these. Okay. And all my presentations are already the electronic file. So you had probably downloaded in July, okay, when you learned my first. I will skip this. This is my laboratories, research centers activities. So basically, my company is a small business. So some of our big product is a munition. So a 25 millimeter bullet is now like a small missile. So we embedded piezoelectric materials for the energy harvesting application. Now we are working for the homeland security, gamma ray sources by using a piezoelectric transformer. And these are almost a finishing type. These are injection valve with Bosch Denso Corporation. So I worked for the diesel injection valve application for more than 30 years already. So almost all the worldwide diesel injection valves, I know the types. Okay. Piezoelectric energy harvesting with Toyota or others, okay? One Chinese character in 2018. Do you know the character? That was reported 3 days ago. Sai. Catastrophe. Disaster. Now Japan is facing a serious catastrophe disaster. This is actually how to solve it, the crisis technologies. So you need to seriously consider on this issue, okay? Now this year is really big hit by also the missile attack from North Korea and also Senkaku Island area. You may not know there are lots of Chinese submarines around there, okay, invading. So how you can protect the Japanese countries, this is the most important issue. So global business ethics, this is comparison between the ethics between US and Japan. So if we summarize in one word, regatta is a US style, and mikoshi is a Japanese style. Okay. Based on this, I will compare the US and the Japanese business ethics from 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Living philosophy, education, industry type, and the management, and the needs, and the quality control, and so on. So these are the typical one word to characterize the Japanese and the United States. So let's start initially the living philosophy, working style, individual versus group. So hunting race and farming race is the original. So the United States, similar to the continental Europe, Western hunting is the starting point. To the contrary, Asian farming is the teaming. Okay? Therefore, originally group or team are really respected in the Asian countries. To the contrary, individual is essential for the hunting. Okay? So cubicle style office, all-in-one style office, and cubicle. Both are my companies. This is the Penn State areas. Okay? This is when I was in Japan. Okay? So the all-in-one style is a typical Japanese. Cubicle means each are separated. Privacy is important in the US. Okay? So no privacy in the office is a typical Japanese because almost all are equally working. So working style difference, US and Japan. I'm illustrating here. Individual pace, in the US, we can work individually, okay? And this is the research-oriented originality, and also originality comes easily. To the contrary, Japan, usually all pace should be the same. Uniform pace, group, team, these are usually encouraged, and development-oriented cooperation. So development or research, these are the different, okay? So similarly, salary based on the individual ability is the United States. To the contrary, salary based on what? You are from US? So how can you put? Yeah, Japan here.
I mean, it doesn't matter as long as you do something, you'll be the same. Age?
Yes. So in Japan, in our generation, the stake that sticks out will get hammered down like a whack-a-mole. Okay. And also, this next proverb is rather interesting. Do not do today what you can postpone till tomorrow.
That's Japanese or?
Yes. This is usually taught previously in the Mitsubishi Electric Company, big companies. They are not really encouraging for each individual. Okay? This is the base of the Japanese culture. Okay? Of course, now this cannot be really maintained. So if you postpone tomorrow what you can do today, you may be fired. Okay? But this is the basic the principle in our generation. Okay? So a compensation salary increment system. This is like a jump. In this case, exponentially increasing. These are the working the company ABC. Just to consider the turnover and finding a new company. Okay. and company switching. This is the typical salary increase. You can easily understand the leftward should be US and right is Japan, okay? That means employment transfer is really encouraged. Usually if we switch to the next company, sometimes salary is doubled, okay? And therefore, that motivates to the turnover. Actually, in my company, of course, the turnover is typically 4 years to 5 years. Nobody will stay more than 7 years, okay? That's the transfers. And educating in our company and experiencing. Of course, my companies, like a graduate, is really high price employment. So the other company try to steal our employees, okay? That's basically motivation is the salary jump, okay? To the contrary, permanent employment is Japan. So if you change the company, salary may be maintained or sometimes decreased, okay? This may happen. Therefore, I switched the company and also the universities many times. Therefore, it doesn't really move up and decreasing down. So motivation of the young workers in this case, but here, stability of senior workers. As long as you work for more than 30 years in the one company, yes, your salary is quite high. Even you are a little lazy, okay? That's the situation. So my retirement pension is half of the ordinary person. Some of may already receive a Japanese pension because I usually switch the university employment like 8 years or 10 years this period. Therefore, it doesn't really move up. Therefore, final, when I retired from Japanese universities, that is a major to provide a pension system. So a pension is quite low in Japan, or for me, okay? So typically salary level is not increasing without spending a long period in one particular company. Yes?
If you stay in one company, Japanese company, and you transfer a lot of companies, American company, will the overall pay be about the same? Like if I stay in one company in Japan my whole life, and compared to going to America and changing several jobs, will my overall lifetime pay be about the same? Or of course America will pay much more?
The salary level?
Yeah.
Salary level, for me, when I moved to the Penn State, of course, originally decreasing. Because Japanese salary is quite high. So roughly, when I moved, the Japanese average salary is doubled high, but the living expense is 4 times high. Therefore, if I move the lower salary, but the spending is quite low in the United States, particularly food. Very cheap, okay? At least compared with Tokyo area, I moved to the state college. That's the cheapest at that time. So actually only 20% is spent for the living expenses. House is so low, okay? So this house price in Japan, I lived in the Roppongi Hills. Do you know just a small apartment house? $2 million to $4 million, okay? To the contrary, in the United States, I have reasonably large house, 5-bedroom the house. But originally, when I purchased, it's only $200,000, okay? Yeah. Nowadays, close to $500,000. So I can get some margin, okay? But anyhow, my house level, large house, if I try to find around here, nothing, okay? This may be more than $10 million, okay, here.
So you're saying America pays less than Japan? Japan will pay more?
Generally, yes. So salary is a little high. If you don't need to pay some income tax, okay, here, if you get it, just usually Japanese allows only 1 year for this, no income tax. or just a limited period. In that case, Japan can get much larger. Income, revenue is fine, but the cost is much higher.
Sure.
Okay. So turnover is discouraged in Japan. I'm a bad example. Okay. So tenure positions. To the contrary, in the United States, we have a tenure position. When I was recruited by Penn State, of course, tenure is essential. Okay. Therefore, tenure means, are you familiar with the tenure? Permanent employment. Okay. So without making any criminal issues, I will not be quit by the university as long as I teach or others. But anyhow, tenure guarantees her permanent employment. But initially, I didn't know by sacrificing the right of the salary negotiation. Okay. Therefore, I spent 27 years, but my salary didn't really increase. So when I was hired initially, I negotiated a relatively high. Okay, relatively high. However, 27 years, almost the same. Okay. Now the younger generation, junior faculty, like associate professor, will receive a higher salary than me. Okay. So a tenure is abandoning the right to negotiate the salary. Okay. So my salary doesn't change much in these 27 years. Roughly doubled. That means 27 years doubled. Yearly only 2%. US living expenses extending in our state college area, roughly yearly 4%. So my wife is now complaining lots. Your salary is actually becomes a more, how can I say, the more severe to survive 1 month. Okay. Previously, I had a lot of remaining matter, but the increasing rate of the living expenses are much higher. So I'm not encouraging to take a tenure. Okay. Tenure is a stability, like a Japanese permanent resident, permanent, but no right for the negotiation of the salary. Okay, so if you are not really getting a tenure yet, of course you can negotiate with the department head or deans. Can I get the 10% higher income because I made a this and this? Okay, that's the situation. So structure differences of the labor union. In the United States, electrician union or mechanical union, these are the separate, even a different companies. So you can easily move from company 1 to company 2 and negotiating about the salary and so on. However, in Japan, each company has a different labor unions. Therefore, it's not so easy. Electrician to another company's electrician. Okay, that's the protection by the union is not expected so much in the United States. In Japan, loyalty to one company is really restricted, and also if we move to the next companies, salary is not increasing, doubled. Okay, therefore, it's not actually discouraging to move to the other company. Education, R&D. This is US is why, and Japanese how to. Okay. Japanese teaching philosophy. Are you familiar with the Karate Kid? Younger generation may not know it. Do you know Karate Kids? Okay, good. Karate Kid, okay. Daniel-san usually learn from the Miyagi-san, okay? How does he teach? Wax on, wax off. That's it, okay? So Daniel-san couldn't really understand why this is important, wax on and wax off. But this is like a karate's fundamental motion. But without saying, explaining the why it is important, usually Miyagi mentioned, try, just start this. This is similar to the Kumon type training situation, okay? Therefore, education system, the US usually principle is understanding. Student can understand but cannot do is usually created. To the contrary, Japan, repeat and memorize without knowing why this is important. So I cannot understand, but I can do, okay? This is the typical difference of the student. So example, 60 divided by 12. Correct answer percentage. In junior high school, can you calculate? 5, yeah, it's easy. But actually, this is a correct answer percentage. 40%, 70%. Big difference, okay? The basic knowledge. This is automatically calculated. In my generation, of course, I was a solo band that abacus period, okay? Yeah. Therefore, even a 4 digits times 4 digits, I can immediately, less than 1 second, all calculation is done correctly, okay? In my head. This is not the understanding, but automatically my abacus, these bees are moving in the brain. So this is just a training, okay? So Kumon math training program is now popular, and this is widely utilized in the United States recently, okay? To increase this kind of how-to training, okay? So of course, the creativity viewpoint, high creativity is essential for understanding, but the low creativity, but the low unemployment, high unemployment. Typically, these are the another issues, okay? Working attitude. In the US, the research-oriented. In Japan, development-oriented. So similar to the previously uniform type, okay? Ichiro is more respected, single hit and squeeze play. So continuous, the team play is really respected in Japan. To the contrary, like a Babe Ruth, home run batter is really encouraged, okay? Every year, CNN usually reports this year the Hero, okay? Hero program is very popular. Equivalent program is not popular in the US because they are not interested to put only one guy who will make a home run. Okay? So this farming race and hunting race is the background of all this. Next, move to the industrial type, R&D, a performance appraisal. When did I start? The differential and integral. This is a mathematical the word. Do you know differential? This is usually called sekibun in Japanese. And integral, the bibun. And integral is sekibun. Okay, accumulate.
I guess differential is how are you different from other people, while Japan is how do you complement other people? Like research, like how does your research differentiate from other research? And Japan is how does your research complement other research?
Like a wage or others. I will explain later. Okay. So anyhow, differential and integral, that means what? Industry types. What is a differential industry? What is integral industry? Typical one is the profit is usually calculated by the total price, but the differential means change in the price. That means margin. So like a stock market, purchasing the cheap and slightly selling. That original price, like the $10,000, doesn't matter, okay? Even the $100 or $10,000 for the one stock, okay? $100 becomes $102. $10,000 becomes some dollars. Original difference is important, okay? So this change, the absolute value doesn't matter. So finance, security, cooperation. This is more, the popular to find out in the job, and manufacturer is more high in Japan. So manufacturing industry, total industry, this ratio, if we calculate, Japan is 1/3, and the US is just 1/4, okay, or less. And the science and technology student over the total university student, this is really big difference. US is only 5%. In Japan, 20%, okay? So 4 times more, cutting, 4 times more for the engineers in the universities. However, the total number of the university is important. So population, rather current, 320 million in the US, 130 million in Japan. Previously 2 to 1, but the population in the US is still increasing dramatically, but the Japanese population is declining. Therefore, this difference is not right. University student population. Previously, these are only similar to this half, but interestingly in Japan, population for the student are dramatically decreasing. You may know the small kids. One family has only 1 kid, okay? That situation creates this big difference, already 1/4 of this. 1/4 and 4 times. Therefore, the US and Japan engineers total number is almost the same now, okay? Every year. So performance appraisal criteria. A derivative way and integral way. That means initially Japanese method started from the company like 21, 22 years old, and accumulating all. So present, the salary is calculated from all contribution from here. To the contrary, Japanese is derivative, just a slope. That means only the short period, 1 year, how much you provide to the company, that is most important range, okay? That is the differential type method, and this is the integral way. So United States provide a working motivation to the younger engineers. Of course, younger engineers, they are not accumulating to the companies. Therefore, no young person can receive $1 million for the 1 year salary, okay, in Japan. Japan method provides a guarantee to senior engineers. To the contrary, the US the US method provide young engineers motivation rather largely, okay? So even my companies, my president is receiving $500,000. He is just 40 years old, okay? So $500,000. So background is like that. Salary, this is the BS, MS, PhD. Interestingly, Japan is, as I told you, this provides the exact number, average number. BS graduate, the first salary level is lower in the US and Japan. To the contrary, master is high and PhD is high. So usually the double higher for the PhD compared to the BS. Therefore, the many US students sometimes try to get the PhD. However, if the economy is quite good, that means this year is not bad. Therefore, not many American students will get into the graduate school. They will take a job first. Job, of course, much higher. Okay? Yes?
But is this true for just being located in the US for example, if Sony has a corporation in Japan and they have a corporation in America,
Mm-hmm.
do they have to match the American prices to be competitive? Or will they still have the same work ethic even in America? Do you know what I mean? Like, will they still charge PhDs less in America like they do in Japan? Or will they try to
Which
follow?
nationality are you talking?
I'm talking about Japanese companies in America.
One example, the Murata, that has a US and Japan.
Yeah.
Originally, some of the guy came from Japan. It's like a double income.
Yeah.
Because they're traveling in the different countries, additional one is made. Therefore, when they came, the wives are not working usually in Japan. Therefore, wives are usually taking a golf during the working period. Therefore, some complaint came in the state college, societies. Japanese ladies are always playing the golf. That complaint come. Okay. Therefore, I notified to the Japanese real headquarters president on these issues. One of my Japanese, I'm ashamed of this, lazy, the ladies situation. Therefore, they cut the salary. So of course, the Murata's Japanese employees are angry about me. Okay. But actually, you can easily understand. If that seems to be like a colony from Japan, ladies that doesn't work and playing golf. Golf is, of course, not very expensive in the United States, but still, without working and playing all golf every day, okay? At a local, state college, ladies are working usually in the regular days. So these are difference. It is only the Japanese ladies are working. So that situation happened. Okay. Anyhow, this is the degrees difference. However, in Japan, can you understand BS, MS, and PhD? Salary difference, of course, higher, but only age difference. The power of 5 for 4%, that corresponds to typically this.
So this is the starting salary. So how does the senior salary compare? This is the starting salary, right? So how does the senior salary compare?
I will explain it.
Sorry.
Okay. Senior means president, okay? CEO salary and lowest worker, okay, pay. United States, 15,000 is the lowest, even Penn State, secretary level, okay? This is the situation. COE payment. This is the top 50, the companies group president salary or CEO salary, 15 million average. Of course, some of the companies' president is 100 million. Some are less than this, but average is this level. So this number difference, you can easily understand the million, kilo, so 1,000 times difference, okay? To the contrary, Japan, 25K, much higher for the original starting point. And average is here, and the CEO is 500,000, even a relatively large company, okay? So basically, if we calculate entering and to become a CEO, about the 23 years period, 23 years for getting a job, and 53 years for become a CEO, roughly 30 years, okay? 30-year period, every year 8% change, and power of 30, that becomes 10 times, only 10 times difference between the CEO and the lowest. That means what? This is just the age, okay? Executive, if you spend a long period in the same companies, And averagely, you will receive this increment continuously. Okay? In that case, the 10 times. You can easily understand. This is not actually the exponential situation. This is the jump, okay? The level, 10 times higher, 10 times higher, 10 times higher, okay? Totally 1,000 times higher comes to the CEO, okay? That's a big difference in the salary. That creates a problem in Japan. So a university and the company president hired from a different institute in the United States. Even my Penn State University president came from Ohio and moving in. Okay, another president comes from Virginia Tech or other. So the president doesn't move from the same companies. To the contrary, president in the same institute in Japan. Usually, the University of Tokyo president is elected from the University of Tokyo. Okay? Tokyo Tech, usually the same university. So this is a typical, the same situation in the company. Usually companies, including a general manager, and some, the finance, some of the executives, and become the president. Usually the same companies are the typical in the US. That creates a big conflict about Carlos Ghosn, okay? Carlos Ghosn was arrested 1 month ago, okay? Tokyo. You may know this background. Anyhow, the origin is his huge salary. Probably he's receiving a $20 million range. However, as long as I'm a US citizen and evaluating, his contribution to the Nissan seems to be a $100 million range, okay? Without him, the Nissan will be completely crashing. Therefore, even a minimum $50 million is requested. But the Japanese culture doesn't really, in the society, doesn't allow his extraordinary high compensation. Therefore, a kind of penalty or punishment came in. To the contrary, initially Nissan probably suggested to put the additional income, particularly one of my students, and who is now my company's president. He was a vice president in the previous small business, okay? In that case, his salary was a little low, so he just complained about the president. My vice president's salary is a little low. In that case, the president provided him the house and the cars, okay? Okay, in that case, I can accept. That's the situation, okay? Therefore, a similar situation came in. Nissan provided the Ghosn. So, okay, we can purchase your house in the worldwide and so on. So, therefore, probably Ghosn accepted this, okay?
But he pays taxes, right? He pays for his taxes. Is that why he's arrested? He didn't pay for the extra?
So, tax is a different story. Usually, large income person, including a Trump, okay? Attorney is usually creating all tax situation. It's not the private, this guy. He doesn't know anything about how much tax must be paid for Japan. Particularly, he's not the Japanese, okay?
But why did he get arrested? I mean, if he tells people he gets paid less, it's okay as long as he pays for his taxes, right? You can lie about your income. That's no
Yeah, usually if tax is missing, the additional tax should be paid.
Right.
Arrested means probably illegal to get the sum of the additional money through the house. So he didn't really consider this is really taxable income or not. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So all are usually created by the Nissan attorneys for making all this tax situation, okay? No residence.
Yeah, no
Therefore,
no residence.
I don't know where he is really need to pay the income tax or this, okay? So lots complicated lots, okay?
With the company disclosure, so the maybe false company disclosure as he may leave.
Yeah.
So that's one of the insistence by the, how can I say that, the Kensatsu.
Yeah. Anyhow, this is still ongoing, so I don't want to put more comment on it. But practically, the Hodiemon many years ago, the similar, his attitude is initially selling a company or purchasing another merge and escaping all taxes, okay? This is what the Trump is usually taking, okay, without paying. So he is not paying any income tax for 10 years, okay? So it's legal in the US. But in Japan, so Hodiemon probably they took, what's the company name? Outdoor? Livedoor, yeah. So in his situation, he is just imitating American culture. So legally, I don't think that there's any problem, okay? But ethically, okay, this may be a problem. Therefore, Japanese arrested him. So a similar situation. Of course, he is the Japanese citizen, therefore more strict. Okay, in his case, he doesn't need to pay any income tax to Japan. Therefore, I don't know this arrest is really real or the legal or not. Okay, so Renault in France is not accepting this situation. Okay. So now France and the Japanese, some government taxation, this system difference and fighting now.
In America, he wouldn't go to jail. Nobody would care.
Doesn't care. Even my current president, who used to get some home or others, therefore he accepted a little lower, the annual income. That's reasonable, okay? Yes.
Problem because his company is in the market with the stock, and then I know there's a IR reporting system to shareholders, and then his salary wasn't indicated correctly, so I thought that was an issue.
I don't know, this is the Nissan inside mistake or his mistake, or actually usually president is not watching his salary sheet or balance sheet, asking the attorneys, okay? So I don't know, this is really his intention or not, okay? So this will be clarified in the future.
It might be a competitor intention to try to make the stock price.
Yeah. So this problem happened because Japan. A kind of extraordinary high compensations. Usually, some guys are envying them and they try to pull down. Yeah. Payment practice during a recession, a comparison between US and Japan. In the United States, during recession means in the 1990s, okay? Usually, selling factories. Now GM is moving this direction currently, okay? And firing workers, they will fire probably 20,000 people very soon, okay? And increase the CEO salary. Because of this, company recovered financially, okay? No large deficit because the cutting this. And after that, usually CEO will quit this company and having a rest in Hawaii, okay, for a couple of years. That's the situation. Actually, I learned this is the CEO or other person's directions in the MBA class in the United States, okay? To the contrary, Japan, cutting the manager's salary by 10%, VP's salary 20%, and the CEO salary 30%, and keeping a worker's salary, and no layoff. This number is obtained from a Token, NEC Token Corporation, practical numbers, okay? So if I introduce this Japanese system, when I teach in the MBA class in the Penn State, it's ridiculous. Why do we need to cut the CEO, my salary, okay? MBA is usually become a top manager, okay? Cut the lower level, okay? This is a philosophy, okay? So which is better or not, it's not essential. But anyhow, US doesn't accept this. And Japan may not accept this. If the CEO is made like this, again, this CEO may be arrested. We don't know.
What?
Yeah.
I mean, it's his company. You can do whatever you want.
Yes. Therefore, I don't understand. But increase the CEO salary, okay?
Or at least maintain it.
Japanese ethics doesn't usually allow this situation.
But there's a difference between ethics and law. There's a difference between
Yes.
law.
So sometimes Japanese are confusing. And the social, like a journalist, usually chase. So even this is not illegal, but socialistically or ethically, some punished, okay? So this is a big difference. I took MBA both. So in Japan, they usually suggest this, okay? And this is in the US. This is really encouraged work. And almost all companies, big executives, are working like that, okay? Emphasize the CEO's responsibility. What is the responsibility of CEO? Who is a student? Are you a student? What is the CEO's responsibility? What is the most important for the CEO?
Make money.
Make money for stakeholders, okay? But the Japanese CEO usually consider some of the employees, okay, without cutting and so on. US, we don't care. As long as company is surviving and collecting money and distributing to the stakeholder, that means shareholder, okay? That's a good CEO. Cutting, firing the employee is regular situation. Yeah?
In America, the only thing we really care about is transparency. We can do anything we want, but we have to be transparent about it.
Mm-hmm.
In Japan, I guess you can be not so transparent as long as you keep everything.
Making a gray. Okay, the employment hiring. The principle, purchase the present capability, like a software like US. So how much can you provide for the company? Even I hire the graduate student, your capability, how much benefit can you provide to our research centers? Practically, how much money can you bring? Can you write some proposal and 50,000 or 100,000, okay? So all my usually PhD student needs to get the sum of the money from the outside. So, of course, you tried some of the research proposal. In the laboratory, yes, that's definitely essential for the student. If the student cannot really bring any money to our research center, usually that's the end. I will fire the student, okay? Useless student. How much money? So actually, present capability, as I told you, the differential is background is the employment transfer. So if we educate continuously like a fresh employees course or something, that's useless. Usually 2 or 3 years later, if we train all, yes, this guy usually move to another company, taking double the income, okay? Of course, if he or she will stay in the same company, in my company, I usually spend, new employee, I will spend originally 6 months for the teaching and 6 months collecting. So just initial recovery and expecting a second or third years much larger income, okay? But actually, if they are trained, they will move out. Okay? I decided not to teach anything to the company guy. Of course, I'm teaching these issues to you because I'm receiving money from them. So teaching is money, okay? But in the company, teaching the fresh employees, it doesn't make any money for me, okay? So the hiring, what he learned in the university and his previous experience are important. So the most of my PhD students will negotiate with the company 30% higher than the regular PhD. Do you know that? In our lab, computer simulation, FEM software code is completely taught. Therefore, they can easily design the new devices even in the company. So knowing the computer simulations, he can easily get the 30% higher salary, okay? So actually learning in the university directly reflects to the monies, okay, for the employees. Therefore, they are really enthusiastically learn from my course, okay? To the contrary, Japan invest the future capability, hardware like permanent employee, fresh employee education program is arranged in the company, okay? Usually initial a couple months, all the company usually take them. From our US employee, the US executive viewpoint, this is useless, okay? But totally different. So last part, not last, but management, big project, regatta and mikoshi. I will explain this. This is just a visualization. Are you familiar with the regatta? Only Cox, that means president, knows the final goal. Row, row, row your boat, okay? And the others doesn't know the final destination, just rowing, rowing, okay? According to this. This is the US style typically, top down, okay? And Japan, to the contrary, like a mikoshi, president is here, and all employee knows the final goal. Are you familiar with the mikoshi, this festival, okay? They are not moving directly to the destination, just moving around or this. But everybody knows where to go. Even a president fell down from the top, doesn't care, okay? So a president, particularly Japanese government, previously, every year or less than 1 year, prime minister is changing. But the Japanese doesn't change, okay? That means this, okay? They are not believing any prime minister, okay, in Japan. But the president is totally different in US. You have already learned Mr. Obama to this Trump. Completely changed. Even the research fund is completely changed now, okay? So company, president will control the big company. Therefore, they like merging and to become a big companies. That is the CEO's capability. To the contrary, Japan, if this problem happened, even the JR train systems, they cut the 6 different places, okay? Tokai JR or other JR, Tokai JR, where the Kansai or this, okay? NEC also cuts the all, okay? Therefore, they try to original like a total whale shape, but the sardine is separate. So some of the small company will have a dango and the negotiation and creating some of the direction. That's the Japanese style. So president is charismatic in the United States, but the president in Japan, the prime minister, is just a symbolic, usually. Okay? So the difference of the organization, big program. When I was in the 1970s, we worked with NASA to launch the space shuttle and so on. That program, military usually vertical direction, vertical interaction is really strong. So the Penn State received some of the fund. In parallel, Honeywell Corporation took a similar, the research topic. And we are not allowed to communicate each other and working together. And 1 year later, some particular time, the Honeywell and we are competed for the presentation, and which is more successfully made. Next year's start from the top, this part. And both are again parallelly working. So every 1 year, every year, we need to compare with the Honeywell and Penn State, which will win and running together. Therefore, top and the top and the top are all connected. Therefore, less than 3-year period, the final product has been made, okay? This is really aggressively working for making a vertical interaction and a big program. However, Japan, usually even the METI flag and collecting some of the companies, researchers, they are interacting basically horizontally. Therefore, the government fund is not very large. Usually, the company needs to bring their like a bento box and working together and developing something. This is actually good for the development, but the big program is not successfully and quickly made. So, of course, this NASA system was developed during the US and previous Soviet unions are competing about space shuttle application.
This is a huge, huge problem in Japan compared to America. I'll give you an example. In Japan, we have something called leading programs. Even Akira Ibushi has leading programs, and they want to inspire like the creation of these innovative projects. Mm-hmm. In America, we have the same thing through NSF. And the difference is NSF chooses individuals to give the funds to.
Yes.
But Japanese give it to the school, and the school has to spend the money to hire staff who will choose the people, and it's never successful. And in America, if it's not successful, the project is dumped within a year. But in Japan, it takes 7 years.
So you like US style?
Because, I mean, if a project is unsuccessful, it can be dropped within a year. Mm-hmm. But once the money is sent to the university, they have to hire the staff, and you're stuck with it for 7 years. So you're just wasting all the money without any guarantee of success. Yes. I don't like that style at all.
Anyhow, my conclusion, US is better or Japan is better. Actually, we need to compromise. That's the final, my conclusion. But anyhow, I'm explaining these differences. Exaggeratedly, of course. The long-term big program or short-term short project, these are the typical success. The final part is needs and quality control, reliability and newness. In the United States, best device for military with top technology at expensive price, that's the typical way. To the contrary, Japan are usually good device for civil consumers and with improved technology and a cheap price. That's the one-word summary of this. The reliability is actually important for this. Samsonite, you may know this suitcase. Many years ago, more than 17 years ago, I saw the TV advertisement of the Samsonite. They put the suitcase from the 10 stories top and put down. Samsonite is still live, okay? But usually suitcase include a cosmetic or glass. My wife is putting a lot. These are all crashes usually, but they don't care. Just a Samsonite suitcase is alive. That's the advertisement. Okay? That's ridiculous, okay, for me. To the contrary, Japan, usually newness, timing, Game Boy, Nintendo, you are familiar. This is a little old-fashioned, okay? But when this was started, what technology was utilized? It's a second-hand technology. Of course, Game Boy, cheap is important. Therefore, at that time, NEC or Toshiba, they are making a lot of semiconductor chip, okay, competing. But they are trying to catch up the United States technologies. So NEC made a lot of deficit. So totally the all 8, the connection seems to be developed. But the one lot creates only 4 are alive, other 4 are dead. But the Nintendo purchased almost free of charge of this, and using only 4 ports and making a ping-pong game, okay? Ping, ping, ping. This ping-pong game doesn't need so large. Therefore, original is made by the deficit of the semiconductor chip. Therefore, it's not the best device. But technology and the newness and the timing, these are the typical success story in Japan. To the contrary, quality control is different. US product is really wide standard deviation. So high or low, high is fine, but low is no good. Therefore, all check is usually made for the military application. To the contrary, Japan, this is very narrow. Okay? That means our quality control is good. And also high, this part is not good. Because Toshiba lamp, one example, the one lamp usually they endure the 2,000 hours, like the lifetime. Of course, they have some technologies. So once the one dot create 2,400 hours and selling in the same price, what will happen? Usually company bankrupt.
Why?
Because they will spend more than the 10% longer period without buying.
Okay.
That means the revenue is dramatically decreasing. Bulk profit rate is only 3%. Okay? If the total, the sales is decreasing, that's the end. Bankruptcy happened. Therefore, if you go to the Akihabara area, this longer lifetime is 10% higher. Okay? Of course, now LED is much longer, 4 times longer. But in that case, price is not as high as 4 times anymore. Therefore, original the lamp company is now destroying, and the new LED is moving up. Okay. So 6 Sigma. Are you familiar with the 6 Sigma? Probably MBA knows. The 2.4 defects per million product. This is the Japanese typical one. And the Japanese Korean are really, who is a Korean? The previous, some reporter mentioned the Korean, okay? So usually Korean company put the black belt or green belt or this for the 6 Sigma, the certificate, okay? These are made. Factory in the US are at 3 to 4 Sigma quality level. That is the typical GM or Ford. Therefore, I was driving some GM car, but lots of deficit. And every year I need to repair some places, okay? Now I'm driving a Subaru, no problem, okay, for many years. That means 6 sigma or 4 sigma's difference, okay? So factory in the US are 3.5 sigma quality level averagely. 6 sigma is Japan. Line workers' loyal contribution, volunteer to factory management is essential to improve the 6 sigma. So we usually call it the Kaizen, bottom-up suggestion, and re-engineering top-down orders. If you are not familiar with this, they usually in the US the MBA emphasize this Kaizen. In the Japanese MBA usually emphasize engineering. So it's interesting to learn both together. That becomes a really full stage, okay? So I will skip some of the explanation. Knocking down in internal, external wall, internal, external, the walls are the re-engineering. Kaizen is a continuous improvement, especially with the Japanese philosophy. So the Toyota production system is very famous for the Kaizen, that is just-in-time manufacturing. Have you learned that the 7 waste in the MBA class? No? In that case, just remember this. This is important, reported by the Toyota executive, Taiichi Ono. Delay waiting or time spent and also producing more than you need is waste, okay? We need to eliminate all waste. So 7, you need to carefully. Transportation, unnecessary movement or motion. So one example, workers are moving here or here. This motion is too much, therefore all needs to move without changing any motion. That is one kind of, okay? Inventory. So the Toyotas, if some of the component must be delivered at 8 a.m., okay, plus minus only 5 minutes are allowed to bring the truck. So around there, the truck is waiting on the road, and getting to the factories only plus minus 5 minutes range. So that's the inventory, reducing inventory. Previously, some of the component came 1 day prior, so they need to prepare some of the stock area. So that's useless, okay? Waste. So final conclusion. US, Japan, you need to consider some compromised best part, okay? Any questions? This is the end. So let's have, what is the schedule?
I have a 10-minute break and your second lecture.
Yes. It is 3? Yeah, now 3 o'clock. Yeah, good.
So 2 minutes on?
Yeah. Five minutes break, no, 10 minutes, 15 minutes break.